Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres. And if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to the website missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Rick Niemi on the line, and he's CEO over at Valor Compounding Pharmacy. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Adam. Appreciate it.
All right, Rick. So we have a lot to cover today. I'm really excited to bring this knowledge and your story to my audience. So one of the main things that we'll be talking about today will be compounding, what that is, the difference between maybe compounding and what people perceive as a typical pharmacy, and also talk about, that holistic journey of health and, why people won't get well. I mean, we got a lot to cover, but I think just to lay the groundwork, how did you get started in the pharmacy business and just on this path in general?
I'm married a pharmacist in 1995. And this seems like the rest was history. Yeah, I married a pharmacist. We got married in June, so we're coming up on 26 years. So I got to thank my wife for that.
Congrats.
For my career. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And I've been in pharmacy in various capacities. Owner of a retail community pharmacy, now a Valor Compounding Pharmacy, and I also spent about 7 years as a West Sales Director for Parata Systems, selling robotics and automation to pharmacies in the West United States.
So obviously you married your wife, so that's a big draw. But other than that, like as you started looking under the hood, so to speak, of the business, and like what drew you? What drew you into thinking like, you know what, this is it? I stumbled onto something.
Yeah, in my early years, we took over a pharmacy, moved from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, to Sacramento, and took over a pharmacy that was primarily doing long-term care. At the time we took over, we were sending out Mediset trays, blister packs. There was probably 3 or 4 different methods of packaging. And to be honest with you, we were doing adherence packaging before adherence was even a word. We had decided to use blister packs at the time, but we were starting to serve an ambulatory patient, which is a patient really that just lives in their own home. So that's kind of how I got my foot wet. And I think that what kept me, what had my interest really was that, pharmacists are underappreciated in the United States. So I just want to come out and say, pharmacists have a tough job. Independent pharmacy owners, I have the most respect for them for just having to deal with the business of pharmacy, insurance companies, pharmacy benefit managers, DIR fees. It's just so hard to run a company. I think I'm not a pharmacist. So working along with my wife as a pharmacist at the time when we got started, and then with other pharmacists as I grew, I could actually work on the business of pharmacy versus having to wear all the hats of having to be the pharmacist, having to be clinical, having to run a staff, having to hire. It's a lot of work. But I think just, I saw an opportunity to carve out a niche and to provide a value to people the best way I knew how to.
No, that's awesome. And it's interesting to me because whenever I hear a story like this, I think of that old E-Myth book. And it's like, you probably, because you aren't a pharmacist, are the best person to run the business side of the pharmacy and just building the business. And whenever I hear somebody that comes from an outside field to do something different, that's where it always takes my head.
Yeah, and again, I could never be a pharmacist, and I could never, I have utmost appreciation and respect for pharmacists. So I just look at myself as, a complement value add. I'm not trying to compete with them. They have a very special function and role. Patient care. It's all about that to whatever level they can. But I think I've just over the years gotten to know the business of pharmacy fairly well, and that's kind of been my thing.
Mm. So let's go a little bit further into just the overall pharmacy landscape, because I feel like people don't know that there's options and there's different types of pharmacies, right? And there's just different, many times people don't know. So maybe just give us an overview of some of the things that you've discovered through the years.
Well, sure. I mean, if you need a prescription, it's not very difficult to understand what the process is. They usually ask you at the doctor's office, what pharmacy do you use? And let me know, and I'll send that over to them. And it's e-prescribed. It's, there are still doctors that may want to do a fax and all this and that, but they send it over. When it comes to compounding, there's research involved. So not every doctor writes for compounds, and not every doctor wants to write for compounds. So when it comes to our business, a patient has probably tried everything. They've been on this therapy or they've been on that therapy, and they're not getting the results they want. In some cases, the medicine's just not made at all. But for example, pain, let's say, they might start out with an issue with pain and they get prescribed an opioid. And we're now seeing that shouldn't be the first line of writing a prescription at this point. And the whole country is trying to reduce the amount of opioids people are using because of the negative side effects that come along with it. So they might try an opioid, then they might try ibuprofen, then they might try like a icy hot or something like that, maybe a capsaicin. Then they might go to a CBD cream, and they're continuing to try things that would work for them. So the amount of effort that journey to trying to get temporary relief for, there's two different, there's chronic pain versus temporary pain of an injury, two different things. But in our case, we make topical pain meds. A doctor can actually prescribe a combination of ingredients that a numbing agent, a pain ingredient, and an anti-inflammatory, and it can work quite well. People aren't really generally, aware of that. And in fairness, some doctors don't believe in that. Every doctor has their own way of treating patients, and they have their own, therapies that they write prescriptions for. But it happens to be an option, and someone can. That's one example for just one example to mention. But compounding is generally it comes into play when, for example, hormones. There's not a manufacturer that makes medicine for hormones. Well, why not? Because their prescription might change every month. So it's more lab-based. It's more lab-based prescription writing. So you're getting lab work done. Depending on the results of your lab, your prescription will be adjusted. So it's not like the old days where, hey, I'm sick. I might have a condition. I might have an ailment, and I'm taking this medication for the rest of my life. This is customized individual medicine. It's individualized medicine based upon your body. If we were all the same, if we all responded the same to medication, we would all take the same thing and it'd be done. But as it relates to hormones, as we age, our body's dying. We're trying to fight the anti-aging, the aging process in general. As we age and get older, you wake up and you hurt your foot, but you didn't do anything. It's just a part of getting older. Or, your body, all of a sudden you feel, just one day you realize, gosh, it's been a couple of weeks. I'm not feeling my old self. And you're just aware of it. So when it comes to, at least the anti-aging space in general, or just bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, what I like about it is it's not subjective to the point where there's guessing. They're writing a prescription, not really knowing if it may or may not work. It's going to work because we're talking about balancing your hormones. It may be a process of a couple months of lab work to get there. Sometimes you hit it right off the bat and you get what you need. Sometimes it could be an adjustment of a strength or a dose or a combination of ingredients so that you can be, so that your hormones can be optimized, so to speak. But it's a process. So in other cases, we make medicine when something is manufactured by big pharma, and you can get it at a retail store, but for some reason it's just out of stock altogether, locally, regionally, nationally. Then we're allowed to get the ingredients and make a medication that we otherwise wouldn't be able to make because there's a drug shortage. And that's where compounding pharmacies can kind of jump in and partner and help with the community pharmacies to make a medicine that patients still need but can't get access to. So those are just a few examples. Yeah.
So this idea of customized medicine, and this is obviously outside the scope of, if nobody's ever used a compounding pharmacy, then obviously they've never gone through this in terms of a process. And you could use the hormone example, or you can use any, or you can just say in general. What does a process look like for a client or a patient, excuse me, to start working with this type of pharmacy? Because it's obviously different, as you mentioned. There's a process.
Yeah, it's different. I do want to speak to one thing about that. So again, when it comes to retail pharmacies, it's not something that needs to be Google searched or even researched, right? Because you pharmacies down the street, it's coming in mail order or whatever it is. For the conditions that our medicines treat, and again, we're a pharmacy. We don't write the prescriptions. We don't treat patients. We make medicine and we partner with providers that treat their patients. So we kind of share the patient. For the conditions that folks have, they do research, they do Google search, they're looking for something online, and then they find it, and then the process starts. So I would say the first part is just awareness. And that's really one of the things, we're working on awareness, access, and make it easy. Those 3 steps. On the first step of awareness, they'll find us. And then what do I do? So if you're somebody that says, you know what, I really want to get lab work done, I really want to live my best life, I'm not sure if I am or not, I just want to check in. So it used to be like where I'm going to go to the doctor once a year and get a physical. Yeah. That's kind of old school. I mean, that's still great, by the way. That's better than nothing. But you could also get lab work twice a year. Know where all your levels are. And it could be as comprehensive as it could have indicators for how your heart's doing, or it could be just as simple as you're just getting it for your hormone levels only. So functional regenerative medicine, they can write for lab work that maybe your primary physician wouldn't want to or know how to do. So when it comes to that, I think that a patient would say, okay, this is what I want to do. They would call our pharmacy. We would say, do you currently have a doctor? And they would say yes or no. A lot of times what we're finding is they don't have a doctor. So we're connecting them with a doctor in their area. And we're at this very moment setting up a telemedicine offering to where it'll be an option. We don't want to tell the patient where to go. We want to suggest, hey, there's some doctors in your area that might be able to work with you for this type of medicine, this type of treatment. So giving the patient options for maybe a couple local doctors they can visit, or a telemedicine offering, now that's becoming more and more widely not just known, but acceptable, maybe even preferred, that somebody could do an appointment without leaving their house, and they're filling out forms, they're getting information to the doctor about what their conditions might be, and there's an assessment made by the doctor. But for hormones in particular, lab work is the first step. So if you go to our site and say, hey, I want to get started right now, you can go to our site, and in a few weeks here, we will have the ability for you to order lab work right from our site.
Wow.
This will be a saliva test. So from our site, you can order a saliva test. The kit comes to your house. You do the test. The results come back to the pharmacy. Then we'll call you with the results and say, what doctor would you like us to call this into? And we'll call the doctor and we request a prescription. So it's as easy as that for hormone. If somebody says, hey, you know what? I have my own doctor, and you know what? My insurance covers blood work. I'd rather do blood work, a blood test versus a saliva test. You can do that, and that's no problem. So in that case, you would go to your doctor on your own. Tell the doctor you would like to request lab work. We'll help them with what lab work they need to be requested, because the doctor may or may not know exactly what to request. The blood work is ordered. The labs are done. Results come back. The patient gets the results. The doctor that they're working with gets the results, and then we'll call the doctor and ask for the prescription. And then what we've done to kind of wrap everything together to make it easy is we've offered a flat rate pricing program. And usually the price of a compounded prescription depends on the ingredients, the number of ingredients, and the strength and the dose. In our case, what we've done to simplify this process is flat rate pricing. Wow. So we're coming up with a flat rate price. It's $50 for the gals, and it's $85 for men. And it doesn't matter if your prescription changes. Doesn't matter if you need more or less. The only area that it would cost more is if you had super high amounts of testosterone. Then there might be an extra cost if you want a lot more testosterone. But outside of that, it's simple. And I think what we're solving for is anxiety. The patient's not sure how much is this going to cost. And as their condition changes, and their dose might change, the ingredients and the amount of those ingredients might change. And typically when that changes, so does the price. So the doctor's writing the script and he's thinking, hey, I'm working with Valor. I don't have to worry about what the price is to my patient. My price is $50. And to the patient, they're thinking, this is great too, because no matter what happens as I journey through life battling this, my prescription price is going to stay the same, except for the high doses of testosterone. So that's just one example of a process. That is the most difficult process, by the way, the hormones. If you need something for pain, we're getting a lot of calls throughout the country right now for people that are researching just depression, anxiety, maybe PTSD. And you don't need lab work for that. They need a doctor for that. So we're seeing a growing number of telemedicine companies and just businesses wanting to call and set up an account with Valor that use ketamine in small amounts to treat anxiety and depression for just mental health and balancing, again, mental wellness.
So I like this idea that you're bringing up in terms of the journey and about health. The way you're speaking of it's more like, wellness is a journey. It's not just a destination, an endpoint.
That's correct.
And it's not just your words saying that, because if you think about it, the process of the medication or the medicine and it changing for hormones or otherwise over time, I mean, that illustrates it's a journey. Can you tell just a little bit more about, Valor's culture around that concept and how that works and what that means to you?
Yeah, and I think this is one of our differentiators. I mean, pharmacies, for whatever reason, and I don't blame the pharmacist, by the way, at all. But it's set up to be where there's such pressure on volume that patient care is tough. And the independent pharmacies in the United States, I think, do a fantastic job of doing patient care. Fantastic job. The chains, that's not their thing. Get them into the store. The pharmacist doesn't have a lot of time to spend with you. In our case, we have nothing but time. Our staff is set up to be able to build relationships and have a connection. And it's necessary because there's a lot of psychological things going on when it comes to all things related to compounding. Is it going to work? How much will it cost? What if someone finds out? There's a lot of doubt. Am I worth it? I'm not worth it. There's a lot of things going on in the person's mind that will prevent them from taking the next step. And I think one of the things that we're strong in, I think our president and chief pharmacy officer, Christine Stefano, she always talks about strength and knowledge. So where I think my job, more of an ambassador of the company as CEO, is to create an awareness that Valor's an option. That's my job. And that's what I'm set out to do. When it comes to step 2, we really want to be known for access to curated information. There's tons and tons of information out there. So what? Anybody can get information, but is it curated? Is it knowledge? Are you a subject matter expert? And I really feel like Valor and our team are really subject matter experts in our field. We know what people are going through. We understand the psychological challenges. We understand their physical challenges. And having a connectivity with the patient when they work with us, and this is for the providers, so I'm talking to the providers too, that on behalf of their patients, since we share the patient, if we were to serve them and make medicine for them, we are literally right there along with the patient during their journey. And it's not always right and perfect right off the bat. And that's why I say it's a process. The amount of effort it takes to be well is overwhelming. It's overwhelming and sometimes insurmountable. And sometimes there's a lot of fear and doubt and discouragement with the patient. Am I ever going to feel better? Am I ever going to stop living in pain? I wish I felt like I was 35 again. This just stinks getting old. I got out of bed and I thought I broke my foot and I had plantar fasciitis and I don't even know how that happened. As we get older, we're dealing with all these things. Why am I having these discouraging thoughts? And I think COVID brought, the country, I would say before COVID, we were experiencing a national pain medication crisis when it comes to opioids. The country had an opioid epidemic, right? And in addition to that, in certain parts of the country, we as a nation have, like any place, may have struggled with depression. That's off the roof right now. That's through the roof right now. It's worse than it was before. With lockdowns and COVID and all the things that we've had to go through as a country and losing your job and the uncertainty, I mean, it has been tough for people to deal with this. So pain use is up, pain medication use is up, opioid use is up. Things to try to curb discouragement and depression, that's up too.
Yeah.
The medication that's being used, that we're and again, we're not prescribing and we don't treat. We're getting a lot of interest around the country in different places that are using ketamine to treat mental health. The country's battling through a lot right now.
Yeah.
And what we're really passionate about is helping those that are dealing with these symptoms and that are just, they don't know. And so I kind of think of ourselves like, and again, I'm in the medicine business, I'm in the pharmacy business. I think at some times with some things, we could be an over-medicated country on some things. So, it's not about pushing meds down people's throats. It's about just optimizing wellness to whatever degree that is safely, and to kind of look at the results, hopefully either by some indicator of lab work or just by patient testimonials that they're feeling better. And I think to circle back on the 3 steps where, I'm more of an ambassador of the business and just creating an awareness, and that Christine and what she's working on as our chief pharmacy officer is access to curated, validated, trustworthy information. Is our president and chief business officer, Shireen Khalil, is really focused on making everything easy. So when it comes to the process, so it's access, awareness, and make it easy, because I think too many people will just lose to no decision because it's too much work. They're unsure if it would work. They're not sure of the cost. And, to kind of take that first step to take care of you. And you'll, just like anything else, a lot of times, someone would just do anything they could to help everyone else, but they wouldn't do it for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so, take care of you and you could take care of others is kind of the thing. And I think that that's what we're really passionate about, is to help people live their best life and feel and look their best.
So what are, in your experience, what are some of those reasons that you feel like that people won't get better, like on that part of the journey? Like, what have you seen?
Well, when it comes to not getting better, I think so it depends on the person. I mean, if they have a chronic condition, or if they have an illness or an ailment that is overwhelming, and sometimes treatment doesn't work. Not every treatment works for every person every time to the same level. I just think really it boils down to the person's will, and feeling like they deserve it, feeling like they're worth it, and just making the effort. And it is a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort to sit there, and we're getting older, and you're taking your supplements, and you got to set them up every week or whatever you're doing, and you've got to make the effort to go to the doctor. That's why I think that the telemedicine, if it can be done properly, and again, when it comes to telemedicine, there's a lot of different things happening, and I'm sure this is going to be regulated even stronger sooner, because there's always a few people that try to cut corners and do things the wrong way. And at least at Valor, we're looking into an accreditation situation to where we'll have protection working with anybody that's in the telemedicine space. And if we get indication they might be cutting corners, we'll have to, kind of cut that partnership, because for us, integrity is the foundation. And, this is medicine, it's people's lives. And we don't want to, cut any corners or, do anything that wouldn't be, appropriate. But I think when it comes to, it's not that it doesn't work, it's a matter of what's gonna work. And I think it's just that resolve that, they're determined to get better. They're determined to feel their best. They're not giving up. And that's what I want to do. I want to motivate, inspire, and encourage somebody to say, what's the worst that could happen? You got your lab work done, and that was $125, and you got your prescription, that was $50. You're worth $50. If it doesn't work, then at least you tried it, and you could try something else. But usually we're the last resort. What I'm trying to flip is that we shouldn't be the last resort in some cases. So I think somebody could look at at what we offer and say, you know what? I think this topical pain med opportunity would be better than CBD. Maybe I've heard, for example, maybe they work for the fire department, or maybe they work for the police department, and they can't have that in their system. When you're getting a topical pain med that has CBD in it, how do you know it doesn't have THC in it? They didn't mean to take it. It's like a professional athlete saying, hey, I just put this cream on my arm and I didn't know it was in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really hard to know, and that's another thing. Just there's so many products out there. How do you know what to trust? When we make medicine, when we make a prescription, we have to source every ingredient. I mean, we have to source every ingredient where it came from. So, for example, in the older days, it would be like, what's the formula for this prescription for this patient? And the pharmacist would say, it's in my head.
Yeah.
That's not legal anymore.
Yeah.
We're like a restaurant. You got to have like, what is in this prescription, and where did you get it from? And it has to be, it's a very difficult business, but I know it makes a difference, and that's why we do it.
It's awesome. I want to go further into Valor Compounding itself, just as a business,
Sure.
as what makes it so special. So we've talked about a lot of the landscape of pharmacy in general, pharmacies in general, overall healthcare system, some of the other things we touched on. Let's go further into Valor. So tell us a little bit more about that.
At Valor, we're just trying to differentiate ourselves and be set apart, not because we're better, but just because we have a focus on really two groups. We have a focus on people directly, patients directly that might do a Google search and find us. And we have an emphasis on, we work with a lot of companies throughout the United States. And we work with a 5-star health plan right here in California. And I think that we always provide more value than it costs to do business with us. And I think that's something that we've really learned. It's like, we'll get a doctor's office or we'll get a medical group that works with us, and we end up working with their staff, and we end up taking a third of their job and doing things to help make their life easier and to save them time. So if you're at a doctor's office, the last thing you want to hear is, oh, that company's hard to work with. They take forever. They had me on hold for 30 minutes. So it's kind of like that's where coming and making it easy. We make it easy to work with us, and we end up problem solving and troubleshooting a lot more. I mean, making the medicine, we're expected to make quality medicine. So to say we make high quality medicine, it's not that it's ridiculous, but nobody cares because we're expected to make high quality medicine. So to say it is like, that's why say it, but what's not expected is that, we really partner with the other pharmacies that we make medicine for, because we do make medicine for other pharmacies who don't compound. We make medicine for healthcare companies where they have a compounding pharmacy. They just don't want to compound this set of 50 items or 10 items or 5 items. And I think it's the way that we work. Even as we grow our business and we expand, when we look at partners, we're not just looking at the work or the results. We're looking at the way that they work. That matters to us. The way that they work, does it fit? And is there more value than just the product or cost, the cost of the item that we're buying or they're buying. So, again, making medicine is rudimentary. Where we come in is making it easy, providing value, strategizing, problem solving, developing custom programs. Not every medical group is the same. Not every doctor's office or practice is the same. Not everyone's patient base is the same. We don't do a one size fits all thing. I mean, we do have some standard things that I think are revolutionary in our space. One, flat rate pricing.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. Okay. So flat rate pricing to simplify the process, to put the doctor and the patient at ease, no surprises, no catches. 2, free shipping nationwide, 2 days.
Wow.
So, you see that some people, yes, we can get a prescription in today and we can make it today and ship it today and they'll get it tomorrow. That's not likely. But again, that's in the best case. I'm just saying it's possible. I didn't say that we do it all the time. Typically, we'll get a prescription today, we'll make it tomorrow, and we'll ship it tomorrow, 2 days, and they get it in 4 days. So between the time we got the prescription and the time they receive it, it's 4 days. Standard is around 7 days or longer. So we try to, speed of delivery, fast turnaround time, that's important. But again, the flat rate pricing is for what? Reduce anxiety and simplify the process and make it easy. 2-day free shipping. Hey, everyone likes free shipping. Depending on what it is. Yes, you might get free shipping on Amazon if you go into Prime, but shipping is not free everywhere. So that's a value add. And I think really just consistency and dependability and reliability, that's what people care about. Are you going to deliver for me? Are you going to be on time? And it's more than that. So when it comes to the doctor's office, the patient, and our pharmacy, it's a little bit of a dance here. Like, for example, we might make a medicine and they're like, that's too grainy, it's too gritty, it's too greasy. So we try to make a base that's not greasy, not grainy. So that's why it's not so straightforward. We're trying to make a product that someone will be really happy with. Maybe they want to, we make an anti-wrinkle and face cream for a doctor. And it took a couple tries for him to say, perfect, as we adjusted the base. We were sending the product out to him, maybe and his wife. They were trying it, and I think the second time around we got it right, and they were totally happy. And that's why that's why it's a process, Whether, and that's just one example of it being a process. But I think the most valuable thing about Valor is our people. I mean, any good CEO is going to say, their people are what make a company different. And I think we just have people focused on great patient care. Great relationships.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the future of Valor. So tell us plans. I mean, for expansion or otherwise, like what's next?
Well, yeah, I mean, this all started, we got a call out of state from somebody that wanted to do business with us. And we're like, hey, we don't have a license there. And then I thought to myself, well, we should get a license there. And we did. And we started shipping to that state. That was Florida. And next thing you know, we started applying for other states and letting people know that we were an option, and we were getting prescriptions for other places. And now it's turning into where, we're getting licensed in all the states, one state at a time. And I think by the middle of this year, we'll have half the United States. The West we're focused on getting the West first. But we're finding places that have more of a nationwide patient base that want us to serve their patients. I do want to explain, there's two kinds of compounding pharmacies. We're considered a 503A. And what a 503A compounding pharmacy is we make medications that are patient specific. So every medication that goes out the door is literally made for a patient. A 503B pharmacy can bulk manufacture larger amounts of medications to where they can send 100 bottles of a particular medicine to a doctor's office. And the doctor's office gives them to their patient. And we don't do that. We don't do the bulk manufacturing. So I think, again, you asked what makes us unique, is being able to serve a nationwide patient base as a 503A is very costly. It almost, somebody would say that doesn't make any sense, but our goal really is to help as many people as we can. And we feel like expanding into the other states that we have a value proposition that we feel that people aren't getting in the state that they're in. And that's exciting. It's very exciting.
That is exciting. And I know you touched on this before. So the idea of telemedicine trends, big deal, partnering with different groups. Any plans for that going forward? Like, how's that working out? Because I just mean this huge trend. It seems like Valor is just really positioned perfectly for it.
Yeah. When it comes to telemedicine, I mean, we're just seeing these companies pop up. And what we're finding is that, people are landing on our website and calling us thinking that we are doctors.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. It's frustrating because, somebody wants to buy something from us. Somebody wants to do business with us, but there's a barrier. And the barrier is we need a prescription. And in the case that it's hormones or it's hormone related, you need lab work. So again, as a part of, and in the spirit of making everything easier, if we provide the ability for someone who finds us online to order their own lab test, where it gets shipped to their house, and to provide all options for doctors they can visit, whether it's locally in their area or telemedicine, that makes things easy. So again, what we're thinking about is, what are the reasons why someone doesn't give it a try? What are the reasons why someone wouldn't get started? And I would say the number one reason is because they just don't know. And we're tackling that. Even if they know and they go onto our site and they get curated information and they talk to one of our pharmacists, they still might not do it. Well, why not? Because they still have to see a doctor. They still got to get lab work. Oh, that's too much work. And then they start that whole thing of like, oh, I'll do it next week. It's like you want to start working out and you just don't do it, but you want to work out and you say you want to work out and you want to get healthier and it's the first of the year and it's January and you go to the gym and then you stop. Or you just, just that taking that first step, there's just a lot of psychological things going on with somebody that we're aware of that's going to hold them back. And so,
Yeah.
anyways, that's the process. That's kind of the journey, Adam.
Man. Well, Rick, I can talk to you about this all day long, and just throwing this out there. Now you have me all motivated. I'm like, man, I'm going to get some lab work done. I'm ordering one of these tests. I got to get this done. I want to see what's going on with me too. Just in general, I'm like, man, I've been going through the whole COVID epidemic like everybody else. I'm like, man, I want to see what's going on. Do I have some hormones or something I need to check out? I'm in, Rick. So you convinced me. That being said, if somebody is watching this right now or listening to this driving in their car and they want to learn more about Valor Compounding in general, whether they're involved in telemedicine, whether they're, hospital group, anything else like that, or if they're, end patients and they want to think about like what it looks like to maybe look at an alternative to maybe some of the things that they've currently been doing that now they realize, and this is a big part of why I was so excited to have you on the show today, is that now people know they have options. So if somebody wants to connect and learn more about Valor Compounding, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
I mean, I would go to our website at valorcompounding.com, or I would start there, because I think with what we do, people always want to do a little bit of research. And I think that we find that, by the time someone calls us, they've done a fair amount of research in advance. You could call us, you can go onto the website and see the phone number. But, we have it set up to where you can fill out a form online and we'll contact you. You can call us. So really, those are the two main ways. You could fill out a form and we'll call you, or we just need to know you want to talk to us and we'll do all the work.
That's awesome. Well, Rick, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background in the pharmacy business as an entrepreneur, but also all the great work that you're doing over at Valor Compounding. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We definitely want you to be a return viewer and listener. We have many more great guests just like Rick coming up for you. And Rick, thanks again for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.